Welcome to the Leadership and Mentoring Program, presented by the Grand Lodge of Missouri.
Congratulations on being raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason. While it may seem that your journey is complete, it has really only begun. This degree is referred to as a sublime degree, not only for the solemnity of the ceremonies, but also for the profound lessons of wisdom it teaches. Besides the lessons of victory over death and immortality of the soul, there is the lesson of the necessity to fully honor your pledge to your fellow man, especially to our brother Freemason, regardless of the cost. Before continuing your journey to greater light, a review from whence you came is proper and encouraged. Life lessons in Freemasonry. The journey of Freemasonry is personal and full of symbolic meaning that is often found to be unique to each individual. This freedom of interpretation goes to the earliest documented days of the organization during the Age of Enlightenment. During this historical period, men were encouraged to think of themselves, explore, gain knowledge through scientific reasoning, and not just accept blindly the traditions of the day. While individual thought is encouraged, there are many generally accepted precepts within the lessons. A Freemason journey is a progression of increasing magnitudes. Each degree has an increased number of promises made in the obligation. The seriousness of the promises may likewise increase progressively with each degree. The public 50-year pin ceremony makes reference to the master's carpet. This ceremony alludes to the first step, entered apprentice, at a time of youth when we should apply ourselves to the attainment of useful knowledge. The second step, fellowcraft, is a time to apply the lessons learned as an entered apprentice to our daily lives. The third step, Master Mason, is a time of age where we should be able to look back on our lives with enjoyment, and by following the teachings of Freemasonry, we may be satisfied that we have led a well-spent life. The first degree, candidates circle around the altar, the place in which the great lights of Freemasonry reside. Symbolically, each candidate is moved from the darkness of the north into the light of the east and back into darkness. Following the natural path of the sun, each degree requires candidates to travel further to increase their knowledge. As the sun continues to revolve, we are reminded we must continue to travel to continue to learn. The first degree lesson is straightforward as we are symbolically in our youth. We are simply urged to open our minds and assume the proper mental perspective and attitude of humility to receive instruction. We are further taught there are grave penalties for breaking our promises not to reveal secrets to those not entitled to receive them. Translated into life, the lessons conveyed here is to open your mind and keep the promises you make. The second degree lesson is more involved as we are symbolically in manhood. In this degree, we are urged to advance our education, particularly in the fields of history, science, and the liberal arts. By advancing our education in these fields of study, we may honorably occupy a place in human society for which we have acquired the foundational knowledge necessary to make decisions that are sound. The third degree lesson, embodied in the legend of Hiram Abiv, is most complicated of all and the subject of many interpretations. At one level, the story teaches the virtue of keeping one's promise even at the expense of death. At another level, the lesson is there of hope of immortality. As Freemasonry progresses no creed nor elevates any particular religion over another, it leaves the pathway to immortality to each brother's understanding. The three Tyrian ruffians, the implements they used, the lost master's word, and all the other particulars of the degree contained in the legend of Hiram are a treasure trove of symbolic, historic, and esoteric meanings. They are worthy of much thought and contemplation for the true Mason who desires more light in Freemasonry. It has been said that Masonry teaches its symbols to its initiates, demands of them they should study and understand them, so they might value them as man values only that which is obtained with difficulty and by exertion. What are the essential differences in the first section of the Master Mason degree and the corresponding sections of the two preceding degrees? As a progressive science, Masonry advances the candidate according to a particular pattern which should be apparent to him as the degrees unfold. The outstanding difference, of course, lies in the character of the numerous and weighty obligations which are assumed by the Master Mason. With all possible emphasis, it should be stressed that each and every point of his obligation is an important and complete entity. Each is to be sincerely observed and practiced. There is no recourse from any of them. All are binding forever. If the new Master Mason will thoroughly review his obligations from time to time, he will be constantly aware of the responsibilities and will realize that each point has a sacred purpose that fits perfectly into the overall pattern designed to establish his proper relationship to the fraternity and to properly align him with the great architect of the universe and all of his creatures. As is said that a candidate is raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason. This expression refers materially to the portion of the ceremony of the third degree, but symbolically, some believe it represents a resurrection after death and a belief in mortality, while others believe it represents the rebirth of man into a new life to be lived as a Mason. Each brother will ascribe his own interpretation based on his own faith and philosophy. This is how it should be, since Masonry is designed to be universal, communicating universal truths. It has been said there is the sublime climax of the symbolic degrees. If a Mason misses its meaning and sees the living and the dying and the raising only of the Master only as a literal drama designed to teach the virtues of fortitude and flexible fidelity, he has found light but partially. The sublime degree to him is nothing more than a theatrical play with a moral. Carl Claudy, in his book Introduction to Freemasonry, expressed it in these words. Instead of being concerned with moral principles and exhortations, as in the first degree, or with the architectural learning in the second, third is the answer to the cry of Job, if a man die, shall he live again. The degree delves into the deepest recesses of a man's nature, as it leads the initiate into the sanctum sanctorum of the temple. It probes into the holy of holies of his heart. As a whole, the degree is symbolic of that old age by the wisdom in which we may enjoy the happy reflection consequent on a well-spent life and die in the hope of glorious immortality. But it is much more than that. It is at once the universal and yearning question of man throughout all ages, and its answer, it teaches no creed, no dogma, no religion, only that there is hope for immortality. When the lesson of the greater hope and dearest wish of all mankind is made manifest, the sublime degree turns to this life and this brotherhood. The symbolism of the lion's paw and the exposition of the 5 points of fellowship tie together the Hermetic legend and daily living in a manner in which no thoughtful man may see or hear without a thrill. Why was King Solomon's Temple selected as one of the central symbols of Freemasonry? King Solomon's Temple was long noted as one of the most famous and magnificent structures ever erected, as well as being the first temple to be dedicated to the one living and true God. Its appeal, from both the architectural and religious standpoints, was irresistible to operative and speculative Masons. Both have revered the structure of its magnificence. The architectural perfection combined with its religious significance made it the logical symbol around which to center the teachings of Freemasonry. Sir Isaac Newton, supposedly not a Mason but a member of England's prestigious Royal Society, the Center of Enlightenment through the Scientific Inquiry, with many Masonic members, was fascinated by King Solomon's Temple. While there are no historical validation to the specifics of King Solomon's drama embedded in the Freemasonry, yet the allegory is true to the best sense of the word. The story of Hiram is the story of man's deepest hope. It's a tale told in religion. It's a man's quest for faith expressed through Job's immortal question, if a man die, shall he live again? Answered in the affirmative, though through dramatic illustration of Freemasonry may observe that truth, honor, and righteousness, slain by error, will be born again. What is the symbolic meaning of King Solomon's temple? Symbolic interpretations concerning the Temple of Solomon, with all its aspects, are particularly inexhaustible. All rational opinion, however, seems to center on the symbolic representation of man as a temple of God. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16-17 says, Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If a man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temples ye are. Thus, when Freemasonry undertakes the idealistic task of elevating manhood through the strength of character to the individual, it seeks so to improve each brother that he, as a temple, will be better fitted for a suitable dwelling place for the Most High God. The purpose of King Solomon's temple was to provide a suitable dwelling place for the Most High God in the sanctum sanctorum of Holy of Holies. There are many who claim that this was the most perfect edifice ever erected. Perfection was the goal, just as perfection of body, mind, and character should be the goal of every master mason, whereby he may become a temple suitable as a dwelling place for the Most High God. Thus, Freemasonry urges each craftsman to erect his temple of character for the same purpose that brought the great Temple of Solomon into being. Where was King Solomon's temple erected? The temple is located on Mount Moriah, near the place where Abraham was about to offer up his son Isaac, where David met and appeased the destroying angel. David purchased the site from Aroah or Oman, the Jebusite. How long did it take to build the temple? Nearly 7 years were spent in building the temple. The temple was begun in 965 BC, 285 years after the children of Israel came out of Egypt. It was completed in 959 BC. How long did the Temple of Solomon stand before being destroyed? The temple was destroyed in 586 BC by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. King Solomon was the son of David and Bathsheba. He was born about 990 BC and was about 20 years old when he became king of Israel. When he was fully established on the throne, he was familiar with his father's elaborate designs and abundant preparations for the building of the temple. He died about 930 BC. Who was Hiram Abiff? Hiram Abiff was a widow's son from the tribe of Naphtali, a man of Tyre. There was no character in the annals of Freemasonry whose life story is more dependent on tradition as the celebrated architect of King Solomon's temple. Of this artist, whom Freemasonry recognized sometimes as Hiram the Builder, sometimes as the widow's son, but more commonly as Hiram Abiff, the earliest account was found in 1 Kings chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. And King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre. He was the widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass. He was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass. He came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. Why was Hiram, our ancient Grand Master, called Abiff? The word Abiff means his father or my father. Hiram Abiff is therefore correctly translated Hiram, my father. The my father being a term of great respect. Hiram, the widow's son, was the father of all his workmen in the same place that the patriarchs of old were fathers of their respective tribes. Hiram of Tyre, of course, actually lived. The Masonic legend in which he plays the leading role is traditional, not historical. It was merely adopted by early ritual writers to exemplify sublime degrees in a highly dramatic form. Palestine, Phoenicia, and Egypt had gods named Jah, Bel, and Om, and India was Aum. To most modernists, the apparent similarity between the names of Jubalam and his brothers and these gods is coincidental. Masonic ritual has always suffered from a gradual change in words and names. The French for Pythagoras was Pythagore, while the name again crossed the channel to become Peter Gower, who for years was a puzzle to antiquarians. There are many such corruptions. Nimrod for Nimrod, Euclid for Euclid, Ammon for Hiram, are to be found in ancient manuscripts of the Crass. Originally, Jimlam was a name for stonecutters. It rarely change to glimblim, gliblum, dibblum, libellum, sublum, jebulum, jubilee, and lastly, jobulum. The names of his brothers were merely changed in letters and carried out the ritualist idea of the three were blood as well as Masonic brethren. Why is acacia an emblem of immortality? The acacia is the shitted wood referred to in the Old Testament. It is a particular property of seeming to have everlasting life. Bare beams of the wood have been known to put forth fresh sprouts. Thus it was easily established as a symbol for resurrection and eternal life. Where and how can a master mason discover the lost word? This is a subject of considerable debate and depends on who you ask. According to some, in other Masonic rites, a Freemason may receive other substitutes, but the real lost word, never. This is the unanswered question. Never may we find it here. We shall gaze through microscope and telescope and catch no sight of its shadow. We shall travel many lands and far, and see it not. We shall listen to all the words of all the tongues in which men have spoken and will speak. The lost word is not heard. Were it but a word, how easy to invent another. But it is not a word, but the word, the great secret, the unknowingness which the great architect sets before his children, a will-o'-the-wisp to follow, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, never here to be found, but a search for the reasons of life. The sublime degree teaches that in another life it may be found. That is why it is the sublime degree. On the other hand, the quest for and the nature of the lost word are explored in the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry and the York Rite of Freemasonry, each of which has its own unique answer to the question. Who was the Lion of the tribe of Judah? Judah was symbolized as the lion in his father's deathbed blessing. The lion was upon the standard of the large and powerful tribe of Judah. Lion of the tribe of Judah is one of Solomon's tribes. Christian interpretation of the phrase springs from Revelations chapter 5, verse 5. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and loose the seven seals thereof. The idea of resurrection is curiously interwoven into the lion of all ages, the ancient Egyptian, a lion raised Osiris from the dead level to a living perpendicular by the grip of its paw. Egyptian carvings show a figure standing behind the altar, observing the raising of the dead, with a raised left arm forming the angle of a square. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, considered as signifying a coming Redeemer who would spring from the tribe, or meaning the King of Israel who built the temple, must not be confused with the lion's paw, which is a symbol of the mystic tie, the bond between Freemason and the strength which comes from unity. Why is Masonic ritual regarded as so important? Truth may be taught without ritual, but truth taught by ritual makes a lasting impression upon the mind of the learner. Man has always devised ceremonies of initiation for his organizations. A ritual which becomes sacred and inviolable in human belief tends to stabilize truth and to keep uncontaminated by modern ideals. It is living, breathing, sediment truth, conveyed in words, actions, and symbols which by their very antiquity prove them that they are the best for the purposes. Dr. Joseph Fort Newton, a teacher of the spiritual aspects of Freemasonry, said, "Ritual is a dramatization of belief, hope, and spiritual dream. It assists imagination by giving form to what otherwise would remain formless, presenting vivid mental images which lend reality feeling to which is otherwise abstract and unreal. It is a picture philosophy, truth visualized, at once expressing and conferring the faith and visions of the mind. The opening prayer of our Masonic ritual provides the explanation as to why we insist on squaring our corners and demanding precision and exactitude in our lodge ritual work. Rights and duties of a Master Mason. Each Master Mason in good standing has the right to attend the communications meetings of his home lodge. He also has the right to vote and hold office in his home lodge. When a ballot on a petition is taken, it is the responsibility of each eligible member to vote. The method of voting is described each time a ballot is taken. When requested and able, each Master Mason should willingly serve in any committee to which he is appointed. To maintain his good standing, he must pay his dues established by his lodge. As a member in good standing, he can apply for a demit, withdrawal from his lodge, or transfer his membership to another lodge. He can apply for multiple memberships in other lodges in the state or for dual membership in a lodge in another state. A Master Mason is entitled to a Masonic funeral ceremony. These are only conducted at the request of the Master Mason's immediate family. The choice is theirs, not the lodge. This ceremony can be conducted in the church, funeral home, or at a gravesite. The white leathern apron presented to the Master Mason at his initiation should be placed in the casket and goes to the grave with him. Masonic relief may be applied for by any brother, either to his own lodge or to an individual brother Master Mason. In every case, the individual has the right to determine the worthiness of the request and whether such aid can be granted without material injury to his own family. A Master Mason, his widow and orphans are entitled to relief from the Masonic Home in Missouri if they can meet certain requirements and are found to be truly in need. Each Master Mason should attend the presentations made by the representatives of the Masonic Home in Missouri to become fully aware of the benefits available and the requirements necessary to obtain them. Each lodge is governed by the Grand Lodge in its jurisdiction and must adhere to the Constitution, bylaws, edicts, rules, and regulations of that Grand Lodge. These governing provisions are periodically discussed at Grand Lodge sessions, and amendments are made when passed by a required vote. Every lodge establishes its own bylaws, rules, and regulations for the government of the lodge and its members. These lodge bylaws cannot be in conflict with or contrary to the Grand Lodge bylaws, but can be adopted by the lodge and modified by the members of the lodge as necessary to promote the harmonious operation of the lodge. Each member should familiarize himself with the governing provision of both the Grand Lodge and his own lodge so that he can comply and maintain in good standing in the fraternity. Each Master Mason has the right, if he desires, to learn to perform some or all of the ritual and lectures of the various degrees. There are schools, classes, and lodges of instruction available to him for this purpose. Also, those members of the lodge who are proficient in the ritual will gladly provide individual instruction at convenient occasions. The development of proficiency in the ritual work by members of the lodge will enable the lodge to continue to confer the degrees and preserve the high degree of proficiency which was hopefully demonstrated to him in the conferral of his degree. Lodge Protocol. It is not necessary for a brother to commit to memory every protocol governing conduct. What is important as Master Mason is to put the trainings into practice. Simply said, protocol equals respect. By honoring our brothers and respecting the traditions of fraternity, we create a dominance of peace and harmony within the tiled lodge, regardless of what may be occurring in the world beyond the outer door. The opening charge in lodge, behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity, is considered by many one of the most beautiful portions of our Masonic ritual. Aren't the precepts of lodge protocol equally as valid outside the lodge? As we treat non-Freemasons with proper respect, we may learn to respect ourselves. Visiting a lodge. Your lodge secretary can give you a dues card after you receive your Master Mason degree and pay your dues for the year. The lodge is valid for 1 year. The date is stated on the card. There are endowed membership lifetime cards available in Missouri. Your lodge secretary can provide details. You obligated yourself never to admit a stranger into a lodge without obtaining lawful information or conducting a strict examination to determine if a person is a regularly made, non-suspended Freemason. A current due card satisfies part of the obligation and should be carried with you when you visit a recognized lodge anywhere in the United States. In order to visit a recognized lodge outside the country, a letter of introduction, traveling papers should be obtained from the Grand Secretary of Missouri. The easiest way to visit a lodge is to go with a brother who already has sat with you in a lodge meeting. If that brother has sat with members of a lodge you are visiting, he can vouch for you, and no further examination is required. Visiting a lodge without a vouching brother is a bit more involved. Determine that the lodge which you wish to visit is recognized by the Grand Lodge of Missouri. Your lodge secretary or tally should have a book of recognized lodges around the world. Arrive at least a half hour before the lodge meeting starts so you can introduce yourself to the master who appoints an investigation committee. Investigating committees in Missouri are comprised of 3 master masons who will be asked to present your current dues card, and they will show you their current dues cards as well. In Missouri, there is no standard examination format. Typically, the committee will ask questions involving various portions of the 3 Masonic degrees. Some lodges may ask you to demonstrate the various scripts, words, and steps of the degrees. Don't be alarmed if some of the words are slightly different in other states and countries. Remember that while the story that Freemasonry teaches is universally worldwide, the journey through the degrees may differ slightly. At the conclusion of the examination, the examining committee and you might place your hands on the Bible and repeat the test oath or the Tyler's oath. I state your name. Do hereby and hereon solemnly swear that I have been regularly initiated and an apprentice, passed to the degree of fellowcraft, and raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason in the legally constituted lodge of ancient, free, and accepted Freemasons. That I do not now stand suspended or expelled, and that I know no reason why I should not hold Masonic communion with Freemasons, so help me God. As a Master Mason, you are entitled to wear a pin, ring, tie, or place an emblem on your car indicating your membership in the fraternity. Masonic membership in the United States is not kept as secret as is customarily in many parts of Europe. Use of Masonic symbols on business cards and business advertising is prohibited. Appended bodies. The list of organizations related to Freemasonry is too long to repeat. Some of the appended bodies are purely social in nature, while others offer additional degrees that explore and expand upon the symbols and lessons taught in the 3 degrees of Masonic Blue Lodge Freemasonry. There are organizations open to both men and women, and some only open to women related to men in our fraternity. There are also adopted bodies specific to our youth. As you become more comfortable and familiar with symbolically Blue Lodge Freemasonry, you may choose to explore some or all of them. The members of your lodge will be happy to provide you with additional information and share their experiences. Masonic opportunities. The fraternity offers many areas of service and study. Pick 1 or 2 and volunteer to help. Participation on any level contributes to the worth of the experience and results in friendships that otherwise might not have been struck. Lodge officer. A Master Mason is eligible to become an officer of the lodge. The master, senior warden, junior warden, treasurer, and secretary of a lodge are elected annually by the Master Masons of the lodge. All other officers, called chairs, are appointed annually by the master. Each officer is expected to learn the ritual of his office and contribute to the functioning of the lodge in both lodge operations and the conferring of the degree. Ritual. All the degree work you experienced was done from memory. For Freemasons with a theatric inclination, ritual work provides a worthwhile way of contributing to your lodge and the fraternity. Ceremonies. There are a number of Masonic ceremonies in which you can participate. Officer installations, funerals, 50-year pin presentations. A ceremonial manual may be obtained from your lodge secretary. Charity. The crown jewels of Freemasonry in Missouri include the Masonic Home, the Masonic Children's Foundation, the Missouri Lodge of Research, and the Scholarship Fund. Each charity offers opportunities for service and support. Study. Numerous publications covering the history of Freemasonry and other Masonic subjects are available through the Missouri Lodge of Research and many other recognized Masonic sources. While volumes of material concerning Masonry are available online, these must be approached with caution, as a great deal of the material is not credible, in some cases outright false and scandalous. Some parts of the state of Missouri offer Masonic study clubs where discussions range from the practical to the esoteric. Grand Lodge Organization. Whenever a lodge is open, ritual makes reference to the fact that all Freemasons are made in a lodge of Freemasons operated under authorization from a Grand Lodge. The concept of a Grand Lodge being in charge of the ritual and governance of subordinate local lodges is at least as old as the formation of the premier Grand Lodge of England in 1717. Traditionally, a Grand Lodge is responsible for setting the rules and laws under which all subordinate lodges operate. In England and some European countries, there is a Grand Lodge for the entire country. In the United States, each state has its own independent Grand Lodge, which is responsible for Masonic activities in the state. The Grand Lodge of one state may enter into recognition agreements with a Grand Lodge of another state, but it has no right to dictate how the Grand Lodge of another state operates. In Missouri, members of the Grand Lodge include the Grand Master, Deputy Grand Master, Senior Grand Warden, Junior Grand Warden, Grand Treasurer, Grand Secretary, Grand Lecturer, 7 Grand Chaplains, Grand Senior Deacon, Grand Junior Deacon, 2 Grand Orators, Grand Musician, Grand Historian, 2 Grand Marshals, Grand Swordbearer, Grand Pursuivant, 2 Grand Stewards, Grand Tyler, past Grand Masters, past District Deputy Grand Masters, past Grand Wardens, past Grand Treasurers, past Grand Secretaries, Regional Grand Lecturers, District Deputy Grand Masters, District Deputy Grand Lecturers, current Masters and Wardens of Missouri Lodges, past Masters of Missouri Lodges in good standing, past Grand Masters of other jurisdictions elected by the Grand Lodge of Missouri. The Grand Lodge of Missouri is organized with a line of officers similar to those found in a regular lodge. The Grand Master, addressed as Most Worshipful, has ultimate Masonic authority over the lodges and brothers in the state. While the Grand Master is bound to obey the Grand Lodge Constitution and bylaws, he alone has the ultimate power and authority to interpret, apply, and enforce them during his term. Questions involving the Constitution and bylaws first should be directed to the particular District Deputy Grand Master who was appointed by the Grand Master for each Masonic district. The Grand Master may from time to time issue a decision which usually interprets and applies the existing Constitution and bylaws. When the Constitution and bylaws are silent on a particular issue, he may issue an edict which may create new Masonic law on a subject. While his authority may sound almost dictatorial, it is not without some limits. Decisions and edicts are binding on all brothers immediately when issued, but the Grand Lodge membership has an opportunity to approve or reject them at the next annual communication. Grand Lodge members also have the ability to propose amendments to existing law, and if passed by the necessary vote, the amendments become law and reverse prior law decisions or edicts. Masonic law. All lodge operations are governed by a large body of Masonic governance, best illustrated by the hierarchy printed in the Constitution and bylaws, which is available on the Grand Lodge website, www.momason.org. In addition, there are many unwritten customs, traditions, and usages that are equally part of Masonic law. All subordinate lodges must operate under rules consistent with those of the Grand Lodge. Any lodge bylaw not consistent with the Grand Lodge bylaw is automatically void. Likewise, a Grand Lodge bylaw must be consistent with and is subordinate to the Grand Lodge Constitution. All Masonic law, even the Constitution, must conform with the subject of local, state, and federal laws. The Master of a Lodge, in the first instance, is charged with interpreting, applying, and enforcing the Masonic law in his lodge. In so doing, he should regularly communicate with the District Deputy Grand Master. Robert's Rules of Order are not followed in a lodge, as they conflict with the ancient and exclusive authority of the Master to set the agenda and conduct the business of the lodge. District Deputy Grand Masters are the official representatives of the Grand Master in each district of the state. The district deputies are empowered to render decisions on questions of Masonic law as submitted to him. The decision governed for that specific instance, otherwise the decision is appealed to the Grand Master. The Grand Honors. In the first degree, a new entered apprentice is presented with a lambskin apron. They explain that this is the emblem of innocence and more important than any other badges that may be presented at later times. It may seem inconsistent that later a Mason is taught the Grand Honors, which are to be used on rare occasions, and by the title would seem a higher tribute from the craft. An understanding of the symbolism of the apron and Grand Honors remove the confusion. The apron is the first tangible item given to a new Mason that identifies him as such. Being an unsoiled emblem of innocence, it might be thought as a challenge or aid for the new brother to build his internal character free from the soil of the outside world. The new brother is taught to keep his future life as clean as the apron as the day that he received it. While the apron is a symbol of things to come, the grand honors are a ceremonial recognition of respect to a brother who has performed some service of distinction to the lodge. In some jurisdictions, there are two sets of grand honors. One form of grand honors is given by Masons in the tiled lodge. The public grand honors may be used on all appropriate occasions, including public occasions, and many are given by Masons. Grand honors for Missouri Masons are the same in both public forms and in the tiled lodge. In Missouri, the grand honors are given in three distinct clapping motions repeated 3 times. Appropriate occasions for grand honors include visit of a current Grand Master or a past Grand Master at a lodge or function, official visit of the District Deputy Grand Master at a lodge, the installation of officers, or the dedication or rededication of a lodge. At Masonic funerals, the craft honors the departed brother with a modified version of the grand honors. The funeral grand honors are the same 3 repeated movements as the regular grand honors, with this important difference. The honors are given silently with no audible clapping. Lodge history, ancient charges, and landmarks. The exact origin of the fraternity is unknown. Some authors believe speculative masonry evolved from the operative guilds in Scotland and England, dating back as early as 926 AD. Other authors believe in the French tradition of Freemasonry evolving from the Knights Templar, the ancient Roman colleges, and even from the ancient Greeks and from Egypt. While the exact origin is lost in antiquity, the earliest Masonic writings known to scholars is the Regis Poem or manuscript, dating back to approximately 1390 AD. Our phrase, so mota be, is contained in this document. The ancient charges of Freemasonry found in Anderson's Constitution of 1723 are generally govern the conduct of Freemasons and lodges even to the present day. Rules for behavior in and out of lodge, the in and out of the presence of known brothers, the enumeration of the ancient charges. References are often made to the ancient landmarks of Freemasonry. Noted Masonic historian Dr. Albert G. Mackey describes the ancient landmarks as peculiar marks of distinction by which we are separated from the profane, the non-Masonic world. While Dr. Mackey identifies a total of 25 separate ancient landmarks, many Grand Lodges of the present day subscribe only to between 3 and 5. Although Missouri, by resolution many years ago, adopted the ancient landmarks, it does not specifically anywhere list them. It is generally accepted, however, that the ancient landmarks are at least including 3, namely the belief of one supreme deity, the Hermetic legend, and the requirement of the volume of sacred law upon our altars. The adherence to these ancient landmarks make it possible for Missouri Masons to be accepted as legitimate in other jurisdictions and to identify with the story of Hiram told in degrees anywhere in the world, even though the exact words of the ritual may differ. The further a lodge strays from observation of the landmarks, the less likely it will be considered a regular part of Freemasonry. The Historic Candidate Proficiency Lecture. The proficiency exam is an optional series of questions and answers which the candidate may commit to memory prior to being advanced to the next degree. Among other things, it is intended to teach each candidate the language of Freemasonry, fix in his memory the teachings and structure of the degree, and impress upon his consciousness the different points of the obligation. Give each candidate an ancient method to contemplate the meanings behind the degree. Give the new candidate a point of contact with an established member. According to our old rules, the Lodge determines if a candidate is proficient in a degree and therefore eligible to advance to the next degree. There was also a short form of proficiency exam available for lodges to use if deemed necessary. A number of years ago, the Brethren of the Grand Lodge of Missouri, all city masters, wardens, and all past masters voted to no longer require a proficiency for advancement of a candidate through the degrees. While it is no longer required for advancement, the proficiency continues to serve the purpose we discussed and is a valuable tool in giving and receiving light in Freemasonry. Should you wish to learn this proficiency, your mentor would be happy to assist you and encourage you to seek that light. You may even give it back to the Lodge as a sign of your advancement, but it will have no bearing on your progression through the degrees.